Hey, everybody, and welcome to This Is Difficult, the podcast. So difficult we could barely ever start on time. It's amazing. Here we bring you the best entertainment in the video gaming industry. I forget what the rest say. You know, we're not syndicated for a reason. It's the underground shit. This is the stuff you really want. This is the real deets on the down low. Brought to you by a crew of misfits. I am Lord Yeshua, your code host. I am
the code host.
Code host. Yeah, it's not a stutter.
He hosts our code.
Yeah. And then we're on Paul's channel. It's where you got me son in the flesh. Change it up a little. Sorry. We got Adam here. I forgot your thing. It's what is it? It's coffees and
comics and coffee.
Comics and coffee.
Which I'm going to starting up streaming again. I think tomorrow.
I haven't said it out loud.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
that's huge news.
Yeah, it's huge news. Yeah.
His kids can take care of themselves finally, and he's able to play video games on his own, pretty much.
That's exciting.
It's gonna be work, but yeah.
You're gonna be streaming. Oh, so yeah, true. So we making money. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude. Oh yeah. How's everyone been?
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Everyone have a good week?
Yeah, I'm good, dude.
Like, you know what I didn't do is post that we're going live in Discord.
Whoopsie.
So why don't, Josh, you tell us about your week and what games you've been playing while I do that?
Man, I've been playing so much Magic this week. Let's see.
The Gathering?
That's the shit, dude.
You gathered?
Right now.
Really?
There's so much Magic on this table as I speak.
How much have you gathered?
So much Magic.
Yeah. Are you playing the new stuff or are you playing Legacy?
We play a lot of Commander, me and my buddy, who's here in the background. You can't hear him. Be quiet.
What's up, buddy?
I'm just kidding.
I used to play a ton.
Yeah.
I used to do blind drafts though. That was my thing.
Yeah. What does that even mean?
It means that you basically will buy a box of boosters between like a bunch of people, and then you open a booster and take a card out and then pass it to your right. And you just like try to build your deck like that.
Yeah.
And then stuff. You just until all the packs are gone.
Just costs money to do that.
And then you just play with whatever. It doesn't cost that much if you're all going in. It's like $10 each, you know?
True.
But
eventually you guys build a cube, you and all your friends, and it's basically all your extra cards that are good, and you just build a giant deck that you draft out of, and you just like pass it around in a circle.
I mean, that's not a bad idea too. Yeah.
But we have a bunch of decks that are ridiculously expensive, and all that shit.
Nice.
Talk about it. Aside from that, gaming wise, shit, man, a little bit of Smash Bros. We suck. Online is horrible. It's so toxic and stupid.
Yeah, that makes sense,
dude. For real, dude. I feel like that's the case with most games online in general. I got really good at Destiny on console for a while, and I was actually not bad on PC, but PC is just rife with cheaters. But like when it comes to like fighting games or, you know, even racing games, like anything like that, you just get these people that are so insanely good that it's just no fun at all to play with randos online.
I can still win in Mario Kart, but you know, I would say that Smash is like the hardest to get back to being good at.
Yeah, it is like, I don't know. I feel this way with every game whenever it comes out, that if I'm not lifing it from day one, then you can't stay competitive at all. And like the matchmaking doesn't help. Like it never helps. No, there's no good matchmaking system.
No, it never ranks properly. It's the stupidest shit.
Yeah, unless you're really good, and then
unless you're really good, right?
And then you're just playing people that are really good, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
I mean, that was actually really hotly debated within the Destiny community because there was all these like really high ranked people that wanted to pub stomp, right? And so they wanted to be able to matchmake with people that were new to the game so that they could have a break from, you know, being awesome all the time.
Right, but that's like really frustrating.
It's so frustrating. Yeah. So I actually credit Bungie for not ever like really giving into them. They made like a couple other playlists to kind of like placate to their BS, but like, you know, like it's just not cool and it's not fair for like regular ass people to go in against people who play the game for a living, essentially.
Yeah, it's definitely not
ridiculous. There should be like a separate, complete category for these people with like a code and everything or whatever.
Yeah. Even like a separate. But the thing is, though, that like
server,
even if you did have a separate server like that, they'll just make Smurf accounts. They'll buy the game again, and
they do.
Yeah,
true.
Which is also frustrating. So like the problem becomes less about the game and more about that type of person. That like there's nothing wrong with being competitive and high level at a game, but like if you just want to go dominate noobs, that's pretty shitty. That's like that it's in poor taste, at least.
I agree.
Yeah,
completely. It tastes disgusting. Adam, what about you, bud? You playing games this week? What you been up to?
Yeah, what did I play this week? Yeah, I've been revisiting Mega Man X, as I always do. That's like my go-to. But I did Mega Man Extreme this week, which is infinitely harder.
I don't think it's that much harder. I've beaten the brakes off of that game.
Really?
Yeah. Because I have the cartridge, the Game Boy Color cartridge, and I've beaten the brakes off of that game.
Well, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's that I'm not used to.
The funny thing about it too is I didn't even know you could map slide to the start button. I always just used the down jump slide or whatever.
Start slide, is that useful?
A double tap.
Yeah.
Seems useful.
And it automatically does the wall jump slide move for you. You never have to press a button for that.
That's pretty rad.
That's nice.
But yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to. And my gaming time is pretty limited right now because of work. But
but you're getting back to streaming. That's gonna be rad.
Hey.
I am. Yeah.
I celebrate that. I celebrate when my friends get back into streaming.
I might do like I'm gonna do like work streams, obviously, when I'm drawing.
Yeah.
But like if I'm up late and I'm like, it's too late to start another one, I might just throw on a game, whatever. Just like late night streams. But
yeah. That shit's wild. It's wild. Right on. I played some games. Let's see. I've been playing a lot of Sword of the Samurai. Just because I've been messing around with the PlayStation. I bought a PS2, a modded PS2 that could play region locked games. The PS2 is region free, I guess. So I've been playing this a lot. I was going to play Way of the Samurai this weekend, but my capture card did not really agree with the HDMI converter I was using, so I had to get a new HDMI converter, which is kind of a bummer because the picture from the cheapo one that it came with is actually better than the more expensive one that I ended up buying. But the more expensive one that I ended up buying, like the sound comes through properly. And that was the problem. When I was running it through the capture card, through the cheapo HDMI converter, it was super busted. It's like the sound was it was like nails on a chalkboard. It was so bad. Which is a bummer.
Consistent problems with capture cards and sound, like it not picking up, or there being too much of a delay, or
I haven't. I've been pretty fortunate with that, and I've intentionally bought the cards that are the best at what I'm trying to do at that moment. When I decide to buy a capture card, but it's just unfortunate that for some reason this capture card doesn't like that converter because it works fine on my TV. It just and the picture comes through just fine. It's just the sound is fucking crazy. So that's a bummer. I also picked up Kessen 1, 2, and 3 because even though they're not really my style of game, they're samurai games on the PS2. And I just played through that game Ninja Village, and it was so freaking fun that I'm like, okay, maybe I can get into a more like strategy samurai game. Maybe I've misjudged these for a long time, and I'll give them a chance. So, and they were cheap. So
that actually reminds me. Also, I was a game watcher this week. I've never done this really. But my wife was playing Frostpunk, and I just got like sucked in and just ended up watching that.
Yeah.
As she played it, which that game is dope.
Dude, we talked about it, I think, last week. Like, I enjoy game watching almost as much, if not more, than game playing. And I actually blame you for that, Adam, because
I was gonna say you grew up a younger brother, so you're a perpetual player too, or a game watcher.
Yeah. So I was very conditioned for that growing up. But what else did I play? I played the new River City Three Kingdoms. I was playing that today. It's a lot of fun. It's really good. Great classic River City gameplay with enhanced graphics, and you've got like the Three Kingdoms storyline going on and all that kind of shit. It's fun. It's really fun. So I'm enjoying that. Just started playing that today. Did I do any other gaming? I didn't, but I'm gonna save the next bit for my current event. So speaking of which, what do you guys? We talked about this in the chat, like, saying current event is like, that sounds too official. So we're gonna say, like, what are you excited about in gaming this week?
That was me.
There was actually a more cheesy line that I totally forgot because it was so bad.
There was a much cheesy.
What was it? Do you remember? It's in the chat.
No, I don't. I'm not gonna go dig.
It was really cheesy, and I refused to use it. Actually,
it definitely was. But what are you excited about?
It was super corny. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm actually like very excited about Midnight Suns, which is kind of like ties into the topic a little bit tonight. But the Marvel XCOM, basically. They've been doing a really cool that they will do a character breakdown.
Yeah.
That shows like, here's how Captain America works, here's how Iron Man works. And in doing that, they're showcasing like a different game mechanic each time also.
Yeah.
So like it's not just about the character, it's also about like how the game works, how like it's kind of a card-based system also. And so it focuses on Iron Man focuses on like the redraw mechanic and like how that integrates with his kit, and I think that's really cool. So that's kind of what I'm excited about right now.
Sweet. Josh, any exciting gaming stuff?
Shit. Oh, well, there's that new Kirby game that's like the new Fall Guys thing. That looks really fun. Have you seen that?
I'm actually more excited about that than the actual new Kirby game that just came out.
Yeah. Man, okay, you guys suck, by the way. I'm calling you guys out because
did you like that game a lot?
I loved it. I played Kirby in the Forgotten World.
I got stuck and I just can't keep going.
You got stuck?
I hooked it. No, I mean like caring. You know what I mean? Like, like, you know what I mean? Stale.
Like it's aptly named because I forgot about that game.
Yeah. I played it over the course of a week.
I picked it up again last week, and I was like, it's just so like I don't care.
Yeah, it's boring.
I don't know. I don't find it boring. I think it's very Kirby in that it's like
very Kirby 3.
No,
it's too long. I think
3. It's more like Kirby 2, but like
Kirby 2 is awesome.
There's some major problems with Kirby 2, but but I think that it's very Kirby in that it's like you can beat this game really pretty easily. It's very easy to just beat it. If you want 100% it though, it's like legitimately difficult.
Yeah.
And that's like every Kirby game. It has this hidden difficulty that it's only for like if you're really engaged with it. And the final boss, when I finally beat it, I was like, that was immensely satisfying.
Yeah.
But
okay. Fine.
I was trying 100% and there's just so much shit. I was like, so much stuff.
Yeah, there's like a whole game after the game, and then there's like a Dark Souls level end boss.
Damn.
It's like really difficult.
Yikes.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's another thing that I don't like though, right? Like you've got the pace of your game is so relaxed and easy throughout the entire game, and then so your expectations are this is the type of stuff I'm going to encounter, and then they dump this ridiculous boss on you.
I think that though they manage it in my opinion that they manage to ramp it up by going, here's these challenges that are in order to get like 3 stars in every level, whatever. and some of them are like beat this boss without getting hit, and like very difficult things that like throughout. So it makes you actually really learn the game if you're engaging with it on that level, if you intend on completing it from the beginning.
Sure.
So I don't know. I disagree with you guys, and I think that you're dumb.
Okay, good. That's good. So what was exciting for me in gaming this week was kind of along the lines of Adam. I got to do some game watching this week, and that was in the form of Chelsea streaming on my channel Stray, the new cat game on PlayStation. It's kind of a cool game. It's very, speaking of slow pace, like it's not, you know, it's not very action packed. It's more of like a puzzle story kind of deal, and you just kind of gotta like find stuff and explore. Which I don't necessarily think is super conducive for people who don't play video games very often, unfortunately. So like there was a lot of times that I could tell like where we talked about this a few weeks ago on the show about like gaming IQ, right? Like when we hop into a game, we automatically kind of know where to start looking for things and find clues and you know, make progress in a game. Whereas someone who's not used to playing a game is dropped into a 3D space and they have no guidance, no clue where to go, because they haven't developed that skill over years and years and years of gaming to like find secrets, find new paths, you know. Yeah. And so there were so many times where, you know, she was playing and it was like, okay, I know where I need to go, but I don't know how to get there. And like to me, sitting in the passenger seat, like I can see it, you know?
Yeah.
And she can't.
Right there, so you're getting the X icon popping up on your screen, and like you're just not used to looking all around your screen almost. Like,
yeah. So, but that was really interesting and that was really fun. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get her to do it again, but I think it'd be really fun too. She got, you know, a lot of great feedback and people really enjoyed it, so it was fun. I had a good time.
It seemed like she. I was only there for a little bit, but it seemed like she wanted to fight things more.
Yes, she wanted to fight things. That was another reason why I quickly realized that wasn't the best game for her. Even though you would think it'd be perfect, right? Because it's like, right? She wants Elden Ring. Because, you know, it's cats. And she's obsessed with cats. And I was like, oh, perfect, a cat game. And she had actually seen the trailer for the game and asked me about it. Like, it's actually the second time she's ever asked me about a video game. The first time being the new Harry Potter game that's coming out this winter. It
looks awesome.
It does look awesome. So maybe we'll get her to stream that. But and you know, she'll be able to get some combat going in that, which will be cool. But so the cat game, she wanted to murder stuff, and there really isn't any violence in that game other than you running from these weird robot things.
I don't really understand the existence of it. I mean, I understand the existence of it, but I don't understand the appeal of
that game, like the cat game.
Yeah, it's definitely not for me.
Yeah.
But like I know people that are buying a PlayStation 5 for that game.
That's ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous to me.
Yeah, I think so too.
For a 5-hour game too.
I don't think it's a bad game either, but it's definitely nowhere even close to a consideration for game of the year for me. It's just not my style of game.
I don't think it should be a system seller for anyone. Really.
Yeah, it's crazy, but you know, some people are into that kind of stuff.
I mean, but like the person in question, I'm not throwing them under the bus, but like also has a high-end PC, so could just get it on there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's a weird choice then, I guess. You know, people who like games like Journey and like experiential games, things like that, that are there for like the environment and the experience and the ambiance, I think it's a good game for them, you know. Okay. But yeah, that's not really my style game. So
all right.
Cool. We're gonna switch things up a little bit this week. Rather than jumping right into the review, we're gonna do the topic first. Okay, and then we'll do the review at the end. We'll see if we like this flow better. It's not like a, set in stone new format, but we're gonna try it. So the topic this week is story adaptations from panel to console. So without I would assume I didn't write this topic, so this is like comic book adaptations to video games, right? We talked about like movies and their impact in TV and their impact on games and vice versa. So now we're looking into the comic industry and how that's impacted the video game industry. So
I would say even. Well, we want to just bop into it, or
we'll say what you're gonna say, and then we'll hop into the bullet.
I would say that even more so than the movie industry, it's affected the video game industry actually on account of like there being so many early influences that are like comic themed,
just like Turtles alone.
Oh yeah,
Turtles,
for sure.
Spider-Man, Batman, and like Superman to an extent. Like
I mean, one of the best games
of like games in the early days.
Yeah, one of the best games on the Sega Genesis is Comic Zone. I didn't mention it during what we played this week, but I was playing that like on the toilet the other day.
Oh yeah, you gotta be.
Yeah,
and
that game's awesome.
That's not even one that's based on a license. That's just
it's just like let's make a really cool comic book playable in a game form, and it's cool. Like that game's actually excellent. The animation's incredible.
Aside from just using comic book IPs, though, there's also like certain types of games that use like panel work and stuff like that these days that are really amazing. And I don't know.
There's a game that came out in I want to say 2007, 2008 called Comic Jumper. That it was a run and gun platformer.
Give me that.
And like it has its flaws, but it's like you play as this guy Captain Smiley, who is like a fourth wall breaking character that is like, my comic is in the gutter and this sucks. And so then you like go through
totally
different
not
genres.
Deadpool.
Not Deadpool.
Yeah. But you go through different genres of comic trying to reboot yourself, basically.
That's interesting. That actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fun. I really like it. It's made by the same people as Explosion Man.
I heard of that.
I don't know if you remember that one.
Sounds great.
Vaguely.
So hopping into the bullet points here, what elements of comic book storytelling most effectively translate to video games? I actually want to start with Josh on this because I think Adam has a ton of insight on this stuff, and so he's going to talk forever.
I think I have a little more insight than you might think.
Oh, I'm not saying you don't. I'm saying Adam's our local
he
pro.
Works in a comic thing. Yeah. Okay, so it was how do they bleep? One more time.
What elements of comic book storytelling most effectively translate to video games?
Okay, so comics have this way of kind of just like you can portray emotions and actions very visually without really saying a lot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like things are more easily portrayed through like lack of dialogue and expression than they are in movies and TV, where there's a lot of exposition and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so in video games, like cutscenes are often like visually explanatory. Like often you'll have a silent protagonist. And like, you know, them just going through actions like Samus, like for instance, like the beginning of like a game, like doing a bunch of stuff, like showing you the story. Like that would be seen in like panels, you know what I mean? Like her exploring the ship and whatnot. But you can like kind of see the inspiration in that. Let's see what else.
I would say a good example of that is Earthworm Jim.
Oh yeah.
Like Earthworm Jim is so expressive in its animations and its artwork that it's very, you know, comic style.
Yeah. Well, that's also made by Doug Tenopple, who is a comic book creator.
There you go.
So
there you go.
Yeah.
That's probably another thing is that a lot of the artists probably got into the video game field because, you know, comics were before. So, and then video games came after. So I can imagine a lot of the artists wanted to transition to something more like movement based without being like TV and movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adam, what's your take on that?
So my feeling is that like it's a pretty natural pairing. And it's unsurprising that there would be so many comic adaptations, because both mediums are inherently heightened. Like if you think about like even the most basic game, you jump, like you just like look at Mario. How many times your character's height are you jumping in the air trivially? Like
that's so awesome.
You're this big and you're jumping 3 times your height.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but like that's ingrained in video games, and it has to be. Like you can't jump like a normal person in a video game. You'll feel like an idiot.
It's
like,
also boring. Like there are games where you do jump like human ability, like, and it sucks. You're like, what is this lame jump that I have?
Right.
Like I don't play video games to jump like this.
Yeah. I feel like Zelda is kind of the instance in which like you have a normal person jump, but it's not. It doesn't feel stupid because you're still basically playing on a 2D plane.
And on top of that, you always achieve your desired jump in Zelda, where it's like, if I press off the edge, like I'll just run, and Link will definitely jump and grab that edge.
It's gonna do exactly what he's supposed to.
Whereas a regular human, like, may not be able to make that jump. That's the other thing. It's like he's still like Link's type abilities.
So like, I mean, even going back further, like Pitfall, you're jumping your character's height.
Yeah.
Like
that's just a guy escaping the jungle. Yeah,
exactly.
Think about like the original Prince of Persia though. With very human motions, because they were mocapped, like, or they were rotoscoped.
Yeah,
which is like predates mocap, right? So yeah,
I think so.
all the movements in that game were rotoscoped, which is crazy that they did that at that time. And it feels awful. Like I don't know how that franchise survived long enough to make the good Prince of Persia games later on, the 3D ones. But yeah, like they literally did use human analogs to make the game mechanics in that,
but so yeah, I mean, even if as you get more granular and things that are not based on comic books, they still have a very like a very comic feel to them. Like and it feels like the natural transition is the opposite. Also, like I feel like Mario makes a better comic than it does a movie.
Sure.
Right? They're making movies now. They made one before, but maybe that's because Japan is such a like manga based society. But I don't know for sure.
So I think we did stray a little from like the soul of this question though. What about storytelling, right? Because we talked a lot about really like the feel and like the expression that translates from comics to games. We didn't really talk about storytelling. Do you have any?
That one's
harder. I think
you're right. You're right. We did stray about it. Is a harder question.
I think similarly to what we talked about last week about how like with TV and like binging culture adopting like these basically instead of making a episodic TV show that's like flavor of the week, you've got a long running story throughout, like because you have the time to basically essentially make a movie. It's stretched out to 8 to 15 hours, right? You can do the same thing with a video game and the same thing in comics. Like that long form storytelling is, I think, very prevalent, particularly in RPGs. Is it inspired by comics? I don't necessarily think so.
That's what I think. It might have just been the natural progression of game developers were just like, oh, we can make bigger stories with a larger amount of data and stuff.
Yeah, I do think that they're a medium that evolved alongside each other. For the most part, comics predated it for a little bit, but not actually that much, because comics as an art form really started in the 20s. And video games started in like the 60s. So like in the grand scheme of history, both are very new art forms. So like I think that they're kind of symbiotic in that.
Sure. Are there specific superhero abilities that feel better when translated to video games, do you think? Flight.
What does that mean? Feel better than reading them? Of course. Anytime you get to act it out, it's awesome. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
obviously the obvious answer is
Batman.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, Batman, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I think Spider-Man's kind of like the gold standard for Superman, or I mean superhero abilities in video games, only because those games have been done so well since like the PlayStation, the Tony Hawk engine ones.
Yeah, those ones, Spider-Man 2 especially for like GameCube, PS2 era, the movie one, and then like the new one, or the newer one, which is a couple years old now.
Yeah,
but
I certainly think that like the swinging feels better than like I mentioned flying kind of jokingly. Like the first thing that comes to my head is Superman on this N64.
Yeah,
and that game's hot trash.
I mean, and even like
game is the worst game.
I'll talk about this some in my review, but like even flying in modern games is still not done really great.
I agree. I think that you know what game did it best? Anthem.
It looked like it, honestly.
Anthem's flight, like it was like the highlight of the game. The game wasn't great, but
Star
like
Fox 64.
Well, that's flying a plane. We're talking about like
a rail shooter too.
Yeah.
It's difficult. And like, I think that,
I think there's some games that have done telekinesis really well.
Yeah,
like Control in particular. That recent.
I think we're gonna get it really good in Harry Potter.
Yeah,
maybe
we got it really good in Half-Life Alyx. Holy shit! I tell you what.
And like I don't know if you played the Hulk Ultimate Destruction, which is another GameCube era game. That felt really good because you could just like smash the ground and destroy everything around you, like every item in the entire
I remember that. I don't think I played it, but I remember watching you play it a lot.
Yeah, and that felt really good. So
yeah. Okay, which comic or literary stories would make their way to video games most effectively?
Do you I was gonna let you guys go first for that, but
I don't even know. Like here's my thing. I don't read comics all that often. I think
you read manga.
I do read manga. I think that in particular, Berserk, which kind of has been done in the form of the Souls games, and Vagabond, which is the story of Musashi, would be awesome. Like if you give me a badass samurai game that is like the story of Musashi, where you're fighting all these duels and all this kind of crazy shit, like god damn, that'd be such an awesome video. That's the game I want, right? I'm trying to think of there's a book series called the Prydain Chronicles.
Yeah.
Which is it's kind of Lord of the Ringsy.
It's what the Black Cauldron.
Yeah. Now that movie is a disaster.
That sure is, for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, but that story's really good, and I think that'd make a fun action adventure game. But like, is it the best thing to translate to gaming? I don't know. That's hard to say.
Yeah. So I think that there's a few comic stories that really stand out to me. Mainly the big one that I feel like they should do is No Man's Land, which was a Batman story. That what happened in that is there was a big earthquake and all of the bridges to Gotham went out, and the villains essentially divided up each like borough of Gotham into like, this is what I'm controlling, right? So you had like the Riddler's like, this is my territory, just stay out of here. Joker's like, this is the Joker territory, this is the Penguin territory.
And Gotham just becomes like a feudal state. Like,
yeah, basically it's called,
that's kind of crazy.
It's called No Man's Land.
Yeah.
So and Batman's in there with the his allies, his homies, and has to try and take down each of them essentially. I feel like that is like an intensely gamified situation, right?
Right, because you have all these different regions that are
Yeah, and like
more difficult areas,
especially if like your quest line or whatever takes you into different areas, so you end up fighting like you're like, oh, I'm going after this thing to stop Riddler, but I'm entering Mr. Freeze's thing to do this and whatever. Like, I think that's I'm surprised that they haven't adapted that story into one of the Arkham games.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's like the big one for me. I would like to see an Onslaught situation. But that's just because I like this story. Or Age of Apocalypse.
Age of Apocalypse is cool. That's actually one of the few like Marvel comics that I really like. But yeah, Josh, do you have any input on that?
Input on that? Oh shit, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. No, no, all that sounds good.
And any specific stories that you could think of from books or comics that you would like to see adapted into video game form?
I mean, a lot of manga is probably like better suited for this.
I agree actually a lot, because there's a lot of like power creep and progression and like new abilities and this and that, like that evolve over the course of the story.
I think what's untapped right now, and correct me if I'm wrong because it might be kind of stupid, but also I think awesome, is cartoons like probably having like a niche again in video games. Where like comics, like I feel like there's a lot going on, but like cartoons are kind of untapped still. Like
in terms of like,
in terms of like
Bugs Bunny or
like all that shit, dude. Like Dexter's Laboratory and everything.
Oh
like,
yeah, all right.
I'm just thinking like how it was only done back in the day, and like comics are being resurged right now a lot, and so we're getting a lot of that in movies and gaming and stuff. But cartoons are kind of like falling, maybe just because they're not popular anymore.
I agree with you on an aesthetic level too, because like one of the things that you're seeing with the comic adaptations is like the hyper realism, which you don't see that in comics, right? Like they're drawings, and I would like to see more of a that stylized cartoony kind of stuff. So just for the sake of having more stylized games, I'm for that idea of tapping back into like cartoony, genres.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think that we talked about this on the art episode a long time ago, but like I vastly prefer a stylized game.
Yeah, just lasts.
Yeah,
it holds up.
Yeah, you look like, especially you look at a lot of like PlayStation 1, 2 era. Even up into 3, things that don't hold up are like the things that are trying to be hyper realistic. The things that pick a style and steer into that style end up looking better for longer.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I used to think that at the time, like GTA, when that came out, I was like, this looks like shit. Like,
I remember when the PlayStation 2 came out.
I never thought it looked good.
I thought it looked good, but like the first thing I asked my buddy Gabe when he started playing Final Fantasy X on the PS2 was, do the people look like real people? That was the first thing I asked him. Like and the reason I asked him that is because at the time that's what we thought we wanted, was that like, oh, now that we have all this graphical technology, which is funny to say that about a PS2, but like at the time it was a huge leap forward. Like we wanted everything to look real,
For me, it was like, does the circle look like a circle? Like that was when the GameCube came out. I was like, oh, look at their circles. Look at the sphere. You know what I mean?
They're not like
it's not clunky,
like a polygon.
It's not hacked off.
To me, Nintendo was really good.
Mario has a round nose.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because of that utilization, Sunshine holds up. All these games hold up because of how Nintendo can stylize. And like it just brings us back to like.
Well, and I think that like Wind Waker holds up better than almost any Zelda.
Like
it's funny you say that, because I hated that game at the time, and I actually agree with you as far as like the aesthetics of it are concerned. Is that it holds up, like particularly if you compare it to Twilight Princess. Like aesthetically, it blows it out of the water.
Right, even though it came out before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that the same is true of comic book things, to kind of bring it back. That, like, if you look at Spider-Man 2, which was meant to look like the movie, and they tried to make everything look realistic, versus a couple years later, an Ultimate Spider-Man game came out that was cell shaded and looked like the comic and had like thick outlines, and that looks a ton better still because it steers into the comic book skid. And I think more games should definitely do that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see.
Let's look at. Oh wait, one. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, if you had more to
say. Does anyone remember Beautiful Joe?
Oh yeah, Beautiful Joe still looks great.
Beautiful Joe is literally the perfect example because this game is a comic book in every way. Like literally, it's supposed to be like a movie, like adaptation in his brain. It's like everything's a movie, but it really is like a comic,
drawn like a comic.
Yeah, drawn like a comic, and you like do frames.
Things, I was gonna say things play out like a comic too.
Exactly like it. It's really.
I feel like Bayonetta also kind of
to an extent,
like that sort of aesthetic and like the key poses, like the still keyframes, sort of.
Not a big Bayonetta guy, but yeah, I get you.
Okay, is it worth rewriting or retooling specific stories to adapt to a game, or would it be more effective to find a story that works? I don't really understand that question.
I think so. You don't want to ruin anything and just like adapt something incorrectly. Because it's the same thing as like doing a book improperly in a movie.
Yeah, so I have an example of that offhand.
Okay.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 adapts Civil War, right? Which I feel like was very effectively adapted in the movie, but in the comic, I mean in the game, what ends up happening is you play Act 1, then you have to choose a side, and then you lose half of your characters.
They all die.
So like because they all because then they all like go to the other side, and like you end up getting some of them back later, but like it I don't think that it's a good format for adapting,
especially if you've invested a lot into that particular character.
Exactly. If you're like, I'm gonna put all of this into Captain America, but then you're like, but I want to go pro registration, so I don't have Captain America for the next 2/3 of the game. It's so like I feel like I don't feel like that story is worth adapting into a video game.
Sure.
Whereas like so I think that it is more effective to find a story that works.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think I have anything else to.
You have no shortage of stories. Like there's tons of them.
Yeah, there's tons.
Yeah.
Josh, do you have any other feelings on that?
No, that makes sense. Sounds
all right. Next one is why do developers choose to write original, often subpar content rather than adapting? I feel like this one is
good question.
Yes, it's a good question, but I feel like that's a very like a jaded Zach thing. Like
I feel like that it is
like it sounds like he has something in mind, you know.
I don't know how to answer
that. What game are you talking about there?
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is like I think there's two sides to this without using any specific examples because I don't have any, right? Like if you took an original story, that's great, and if it's a great story and it adapts well, fine, that's a win, right? But a lot of people don't want to rehash stuff. They want new stuff, right? Both
we were talking about this.
It's probably talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Maybe, yeah. But even like from two sides of that, like from a developer side, you want to have your own story, you want to have your own identity in your game, and from a consumer side, like yes, it's cool to see old stuff brought into a new format that you can play through, but like one of the problems that I've always had like with specific franchises that are translated into games like Lord of the Rings is like Lord of the Rings has like a very set story, and so to like going beyond that like feels weird and like doesn't really
really weird.
Translate well. And
the only time that I felt like Lord of the Rings has worked was in like there's like I forget what one it is, but there's an RTS that like there are big battles in Lord of the Rings that you don't see every moment of, and and you know that they happen, and that works well for an RTS.
Sure,
I feel like.
sure.
But like, yeah, doing like RPGs or side stories, it does feel really weird.
Like when you're locked into a specific canon, like it gets weird. So like doing a totally original story, like that isn't necessarily related to that property, you know, I think is a better way to go in some circumstances, you know. It really, I guess, depends on what you're trying to adapt. Like I said, if it is Lord of the Rings, yeah, you can make the same fucking thing over and over again, and you know, people will buy it, you know, but it's not going to excite anyone. And when they make stuff that goes beyond the main story, like that's a huge risk, you know, because it's not necessarily going to be as interesting.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking though that this is like an inherent value that American comics have over manga, over movies, over whatever. Because if you look at, like, let's just say X-Men, right? You have in the comics, you have X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, X-Men Unlimited, Ultimate X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor, like all of these different pieces, right? Then you have the shows that were spin-offs of those. You have the 90s one, you have X-Men Evolution, you have Wolverine the X-Men, you have all of these different interpretations of this. It becomes a broad cultural mythos, right? Batman is like a dozen different things to a dozen different people.
Sure.
So you can adapt that into a comic or into a game and have your own story like the Arkham ones, and it doesn't have to actually be based on anything because people are kind of familiar with the mythos.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think it's interesting you brought up the manga thing, and we're going to talk about Berserk again. There has been a few Berserk games, right? The best one's probably the one that came out on the Dreamcast, which is actually the story is written by Miura, and so like it kind of actually fits in with the story of Berserk, and that's why it worked very, you know, pretty well. The other ones not so much. They're fine, but they're not great, and you get that same kind of like, I feel limited by the content, you know. But you look at the Souls games, right, which I mentioned before, are effectively Berserk, the video game, but there's no mention directly of Berserk, right? There's no, but they basically, they took that kind of same idea and principle and feeling and environment and applied that to a video game and made their own story, made their own characters, you know, and so in a sense it's an adaptation, but they're doing their own thing, and that's what allows them to make it as interesting as it is, because they're not, you know, limited by the scope of that property.
Beholden to the canon, right? Yeah.
Is there untapped potential in video games? Examples being genre, style, mechanics that you'd like to see a specific story done in.
Story. I don't know about a story. I feel like
anything.
I feel like Superman's overdue for a good game. Like I feel like you can do it, and that it's just there's never been a good one.
I kind of disagree, and the only reason, well, you'd have to apply like the Superman TV show limitations to Superman, because Superman's too powerful of a character to be interesting in a video game to me. Like it's like you boot up the video game and you turned on God mode automatically. That's not fun.
But in the animated series, he's getting knocked down all the time to the point that fans were like complaining about it. Actually, they're like, he seems too weak.
Sure, I prefer that if you were going to do a game.
I'd also like to maybe worry about collateral damage. Like they had this idea for the Superman Returns game, which I don't think is the best idea. That you have infinite health as Superman, but the city has a health bar. And so, like, the more that the city is damaged, the lower your health, and then that's how you get.
That's actually a great idea, especially
like when
you look at, well, maybe not like look at like The Boys, right? Like the TV show. They really focus on like the impact of these superpowered people on, normal humans. And I'm not saying take it to that extreme, but that definitely would make a game like Superman a lot more interesting if there was like consequences for that.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that needs to be part of it. But,
yeah.
I also think that it's underused in tactics. I think tactics in general is an underused genre, but especially for super. Like I would play Ninja Turtles tactics. I would play Mortal Kombat tactics. I would play X-Men tactics. Like there's a bunch of these things that I would definitely love tactics versions of these.
I just don't like that most tactics games these days are just XCOM likes. They need to break out of that. Yeah, the grid would be great, or anything different.
Shining Force with turtles, or like hexes, or
I'd be happy with Shining Force anything. I just want more Shining Force.
Well, I feel like Shining Force just struck the perfect balance between actual tactical combat and accessibility.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything else has come close.
Yeah. I 100% agree with. That's part of the reason I love those games so much.
Yeah.
Josh, you were going to say something there. You said there was we said the question was, is there untapped potential in video games, like genres, styles, mechanics that you'd like to see a specific story done in?
Mechanics, that's hard. That's the hard one. Story-wise, I feel like there's a ton of untapped stuff within the own like video game mythos. Like, don't even get me started on Nintendo, dude, and how many untapped like pieces of like threads of story in Zelda there could be and all that. If we're talking comics and all that, oh man. I don't even know. There's probably so many cool ones.
I think that's actually the weakest part of Zelda is the story, right?
What?
Like I would love to see it's the same story over and over again. I would love to see Zelda
maybe
take a little bit more risks with their story.
There was one I really wanted that me and Colin were talking about, where it's the 7-year period in between where Link pulls the Master Sword and he's slumbering for 7 years, but the whole story is your Zelda basically in those 7 years.
That'd be cool.
Sheikah and becoming Sheik, and all that. Yeah,
that would be dope.
And it's like everything that happens, like the dark underbelly of Hyrule and all that.
I think
I know we all like to majorly shit on Breath of the Wild, but I'll say like that's where they don't slack is the story.
Yeah,
like the story parts of that. Like part of my problem
physical
with that game
lore
is that
really
you have
good.
to go out of your way to get to the story.
Yeah.
Well, they tried to pull a Dark Souls with the story. Is the problem?
Yeah, the physical lore is really good.
Yeah.
But the story itself is great, and like there's a lot of it made Zelda the most interesting character she's ever been. That's for sure. I think.
Did they?
Yeah, I mean, and you get a lot more of that.
17-year-old girl just complaining.
I don't feel like she's just complaining. Oh my god! All right,
I don't know.
We'll fight about this later.
I feel like Paul agrees with me, but I don't know.
I think I'm somewhere in the middle on that because I
feel like Age of Calamity really fleshes that out a lot too, and I feel like it's a good story between like what's going on with the champions, what's going on with Link and Zelda, like that's not where that game falters, I don't think. So
yeah,
true.
Let's see. Final question in our bullet points for this topic. Which stories in gaming have been adapted most successfully and why? I think we're still talking about comic book games, right?
Yeah.
So,
in my estimation, peak comic book game is Capcom era Marvel platformers.
Mm-hmm.
They did two that really stand out, which is X-Men Mutant Apocalypse and Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems. Both of which are fantastic. They have like Street Fighter inputs for your characters. They both have 5 playable characters.
They're really freaking hard. I tried playing both of those semi recently, and they're really hard.
But like I feel like they're great in terms of animation, look, music, like everything is firing on all cylinders. The X-Men one has the kind of definitive X-Men story of like I'm going to fight a bunch of villains, and then I fight Magneto.
Yeah.
War of the Gems has the Infinity Gauntlet story. And I feel like that it's very... That's
that
very
was
well
my
done
first introduction
too.
to that story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You went around and collected the gems, and they could buff your characters in certain ways. And then Thanos got them all at the end, and oh no, what are we going to do? Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we going to do, indeed?
Do you have any thoughts on that, Josh? Are there any like
Active
comic book
Carnage
games
also
or even games adapted from like other stories or books that you think are like done really, really well that stand out?
I don't really know which ones stand out to me. You know, I feel like all of my favorite games are like games.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you there.
But I mean, I'm trying to think here. Nah, they're all cool. Arkham, whatever, something.
Arkham games are super solid.
Yeah. We'll go with one of those.
I'm with you there. I like. There's no games in this kind of category that really compel me that much. So it's hard for me to say, oh yeah, freaking, Spider-Man 3 is the dankest because it, did Electro really dope. I don't know. Was he even the character in that? No.
The Spider-Man 2 for PlayStation 1 was Electro.
Oh, okay.
There was no
was
Spider-Man
close.
3, but there was a Spider-Man 3 based on the movie that's not good.
Sure. Well,
just like the regular movie, Spider-Man 3.
Yes, exactly.
Just like
it's a great tie-in, actually.
It's a great tie-in.
It's a very effective tie-in.
Perfect. Well, then I'm correct, and I'm standing on what I.
Turtles in Time also really good.
Yeah, Turtles in Time's excellent, and I could say you could say. I mean, technically the I always separate the Turtles games from like the comics because I never read the comics. To me, Ninja Turtles was the cartoon show. Right?
Yeah.
But you could make the argument, and I think there are at least one of the games is more based off of the comic lore than the show ever was. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, there's God, I'm trying to remember which one. There's an IDW one, and then there's also one that's based more on the Mirage comics.
But, yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah, there's a lot of Turtles games that I haven't even played.
Yeah.
But
dude, Cowabunga collection's coming out soon. Very exciting.
Ooh, they're not in there. Cool. They're post.
Son of a bitch.
But
son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I still need to get Shredder's Revenge.
Shredder's Revenge is good. Revenge is good. Let's do the review. We're a little short on time, but I think we have enough time to do it. We started earlier, so let's swip on over. Swing. All right, take it away, Adam.
Okay, so I'm reviewing Lego DC Supervillains. This is developed by Traveler's Tales, produced by Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. It was released on the 16th of October, 2018. I played this game on PlayStation 5. I think it's a PlayStation 4 game. So it's available on Switch, PlayStation 4, OS X, Xbox One, and Windows. OS X, that's surprising.
It's weird.
Yeah. Okay. What did I like about the game? It is, if you've played a Lego game before, it's a Lego game. It is a kind of mindless action platformer with mild puzzle elements. That you use different characters' abilities to overcome different situations. So, for instance, if you see gold bricks, you know that you have to use some sort of fire on them. If you see silver ones, you know that you have to use an explosion on them. If you see this thing, you have to deflect a beam or something. So,
are these fairly standard mechanics for Lego games? Yes. I've never played one. Okay.
These are very standard mechanics for Lego's games. Yeah. Since I think Lego Star Wars was the first one that I played, the complete trilogy on Xbox 360. And they keep the same mechanics throughout. So knowing that's what I'm getting when I go into it That's what I like about it. It gives you exactly what's on the tin, right? It also gives you something like 200 plus characters to collect, and each of them has different abilities. They all have like little recorded voice lines. There's a ton of Easter eggs. That's the reason to play these things. It's a collectathon of characters and vehicles, and it's just kind of fun to fuck around with Legos, right? Um, what didn't you like about the game? So there's a thing with this. Every level, this has been in the game since in Lego games since day one. Every level you have to beat the level, and then you have to go back in free play to get the collectibles. You don't have the abilities necessary to just go through the level one time.
That's annoying.
And I understand that they're like trying to make you like they imagine you just want to be playing it over and over, but I don't think that's the case. I don't think that it ever has been like that. You can kind of blitz through the levels once you have all the characters, but one thing with this one in particular is that previous games, some of the Marvel ones, have let you like teleport to specific sections in which you're missing certain collectibles. It'll tell you like, oh, you're missing a mini kit here, you're missing a character token here, you're missing whatever, and you could just go to that part of the level, just do that part, leave the level, and you're done. This makes you do the level from the start until you exit it. You can exit out once you've got the collectibles. That's something, but especially for the post story content, you have I think 20 missions, 20 levels, and that are fairly long, and then you have another dozen or so small levels that you can that don't have cutscenes, that don't tie into the main plot. They're just like little side levels. You can't. I feel like you should just be able to do those in free play from the get go. But they make you go through them like normal, and then you have to go through them again. That's the big thing that I don't like about this, is that there are a minimum 2 times required per level to get everything.
Yeah.
It's really stupid.
Which in a game about getting everything, like is pretty irritating.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah. How was the story? Was it engaging? The story is fine. The story is the if you've watched the Justice League animated series, the Justice Lords story of alternate versions of the Justice League. They come here. They send all of the Justice League to get imprisoned by Darkseid, and so you end up playing as, I think it's kind of clever. You end up playing as all of the villains, going, "Hey, this sucks. These guys are worse than the Justice League. So let's take them down and save the Justice League." I think it's pretty clever. The writing's pretty fun. I think that like recently Lego games have ended up a lot more frantic in their humor, and I don't like that, but like that's a nitpick. How is the gameplay? The gameplay is very standard. Hit the button to attack things, destroy some things, do some puzzles. It's fun. Like it's a fun time killer. That's what I like about it.
Mm-hmm.
How's the art? You again. What it says on the tin with this? It's bright. It's colorful. It's clean. It's
the attention to detail's really good. I noticed in one of the cutscenes earlier, you could see like the plastic markings and like the Lego branding and stuff like on one of the arms.
Well, and everything is built out of very clear pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Like you like not everything, but like the environments are what they are. And I actually think it would be kind of too much if everything was built out of Legos.
Mm-hmm.
But any item that's interactable for sure is built out of pieces that you go like, oh, I know how to build that. I can see it. I can build it in real life if I really wanted to.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. How is the music? It's forgettable. Like there's nothing that stands out. Previous games have had Star Wars soundtrack. They had like the famous Danny Elfman Batman or John Williams Superman themes in them. This one doesn't have that, so I think the music is some points against it. Sound design is one of the big problems that I have with this game. Most of it's fine. You have your little building sounds. You have some shattering sounds. All that feels fine. Some of the voice lines are recorded kind of poorly, and so they end up playing tinny and really loud. And then also, I would say 5 or 6 of the levels have klaxons going. So it's like a prison break, or an Arkham breakout, or you're infiltrating some place and the alarms go off, and there's just a klaxon going the whole fucking level. And that's awful. It's really bad. Yeah. So that's a big point against it. How long did it take you to finish? It's about a 30-hour game to 100% it. It's about 12 hours to completion. So like that's the most of the 30 hours is just flying around the city, doing some puzzles, saving some people, like whatever. That's the fun stuff to me. So like that's interesting. Exploring the city, which is like a hub world. It's the levels are the downside. It's like you do the levels and then you get to do the city as your reward almost. But like that's what's fun, is flying around and doing collectibles in the city. Yeah, was the game difficult? No, not at all. It's made for kids. That's will I play a sequel? Probably. I play every single one of these. So yeah, I mean it's an easy 1,000 points or for achievements or trophies, and like it's something to just kind of turn on and do. So I will play all of them because I continue to play all of them as I'm addicted, I guess. But I don't know that I would recommend, if I just played this one, I don't think that I would play a sequel. I think that this is one of the lesser ones to me. Just because like the accessibility of it, of getting to places, of like there's a lot of dumb things to find that they just give you kind of hints for. So like it's irritating a lot. And then also something that that I mentioned earlier, the flight controls are a nightmare. It's almost like they programmed this game. The driving also, it's almost like they programmed it on Nintendo 64. How like there's not, how with 64 there's like 2 pressure sensitivities. There's like I'm walking slow and then I'm running. Yeah. It's like that. There's not like any nuance between how hard you turn. So like you'll have to do sometimes like flying races, where you get a flying character and you have to fly through rings like any good Superman game. And you're if you're going fast and you're just having to make little tweaks to like adjust to where the ring is, that's fine. If you have to do any sharp turns, you're fucked. It's really bad in terms of that. So so yeah, overall rating impression. I'm gonna give this, actually, I give Lego games a lot of credit for being accessible to kids and being something like mindless and that you could just do. But this one, I have to say, it's like a 5.5.
Oof.
Yeah, that's low.
That might be that's one of our lowest scores.
Yeah, it is.
I'm trying to be like, I'm going off of the score, the chart here, right?
Yeah.
I think it's okay. I don't recommend you against it. If you like Lego games, you'll like it, right?
Yeah.
If it's the same thing as every other Lego game. But I think that it's not as, especially with as much as I was looking forward to this one. I like villains.
Yeah.
And that's a selling point. I think that it falls short in terms of that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, so to loop this in with our topic, as far as like an adaptation of comic book properties, how do you think it ranks?
If judging as an adaptation, I think it ranks better than it does as a game. If that makes sense.
Well, yeah.
Right? Because like the story's fun, the writing is cute, and like whatever, it's kind of clever. It also like has a billion characters, some like really deep cuts that like. So I think that's fun, and like the reason to play this is Easter eggs and collecting. But like I don't think it's that. I feel like the mechanics falter, which man, this freaking baffles me. How do you make a game and you make it good and you perfect your formula? Like I think probably Marvel Superheroes 2 is the peak of Lego games, right?
Okay.
I think that they did it probably the best. How do you go back from that? How do you make a game that is good?
Ask Paper Mario, dude.
Dude, ask a lot of franchises. There's so many franchises that have like they peak with something just that's pure magic, and then they half-ass the next game, and you're like, what are you doing?
Bomberman.
Yeah. I don't know how
Look at the Bomberman franchise right now.
Dude, honestly,
like, what do we do? We're
I don't
play Bomberman again.
Yeah, I don't hate the Bomberman franchise. They actually found something
now, though.
The most recent one that I've played, I don't know if there's been any since the one that came out on the Switch when the Switch came out, but like that game's actually excellent, and it does everything right that you want from a Bomberman game. Now whether or not that's enough for you to want to keep playing it, I would actually compare those two Lego games, right? Like they found their formula and they're sticking to it. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Like I don't ever expect much from a Bomberman game, right? It's like, but do we need more is the question, like that's where we need to ask that question. Do we need more? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah. So, ultimate verdict: is the game worth buying at the current full price? Wait for a sale or scout. I have a hard time imagining you'll find this anywhere for full price. Now it came out in 2018. I got it for free on PlayStation because I was for sort of free because I subscribed to the PlayStation thing. I would not buy it at full price. I would probably pay $20 for this. Wait for a sale.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even pay $20. It sounds like.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, like it's also not for everybody, Like most of these, if you have kids, then it's great. My kids are not really old enough to play it, though. You probably need kids that are like 8 to 12, is what I would say. So, yeah, there you go.
Right on. There you go.
Sweet.
Well. That pretty much wraps up the show.
Yeah, we did.
Do you guys have any final thoughts or comments on anything we talked about today that you wanted to toss out there?
Pretty successful, right?
Yeah, that's good. What'd you guys think about doing the review at the end?
I thought it felt good, but
yeah,
good. We might. It's a way to make us go long.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll try it again. We'll see.
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
I felt like, I don't know. To me, this is my opinion, but I feel like the meat of episodes is in the topic discussion, and like that's what I like to spend more time on. But like,
true.
So
I do like that.
It also depends on what we're reviewing too. I think sometimes.
Ending with the topic.
That might be too.
Ending with the topic feels like we let it go sometimes.
Yeah, but you like trying to cram it in 10 minutes.
Yeah, a lot of times we do that. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for hanging out tonight, guys. Adam, thanks for filling in for Zach. He just had his baby, so
he did.
He'll never be back.
Adam and I are also planning on starting a new show, a new podcast. In addition, and we'll probably do them every other week. So we'll do this podcast one week, that podcast the next week, and we'll switch off. Is probably what we're going to start doing at some point. I don't think we have a start date for that though. So for the time being, we're, kicking it here. If you're watching it live, you're on my Twitch channel. I do video games on Tuesdays and sometimes on Thursdays. And then Saturdays are always Samurai Saturday. We play a samurai game. It's a lot of fun. And then, we're back with the podcast. Right now, the schedule is still Monday nights. But,
treat.
Yeah, I was happy to do it tonight because Monday nights are rough for me. But anywho, so we'll see how that is in the future. But yeah, if you're watching it on YouTube, like and share it. It's super important. And then you can yell at me on Twitter at Ryugami-sama. That's where you can find me.
Yeah, nice.
Josh, where can we find you, man?
Yes, find me at Lord Yeshua and Lord Yeshua TTV on all my shit, and find me doing stuff. Maybe catch some streams. I don't know. Find something.
Dude, I've really been enjoying your streams lately. It's been real dope.
Shucks, all the Cuphead. Yeah, it was good times.
When are you getting back to Donkey Kong? Yeah,
I know.
I was loving that
record. Someone's gunning for my record.
I was getting so excited watching you do that.
Okay,
dude. Get back on that. And hey, maybe Zach will follow through with that Games Done Quick stuff.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow I'll give it a run. Why not?
Yeah,
it'd be fun.
Adam, where can we find you, bud?
Yeah. Twitter at GTGAdam. Check me out on there. Twitch.tv/comicscoffee is where I will stream hopefully tomorrow. I'm intending on doing it tomorrow. We'll see if everything goes according to plan. But
cool.
I'm going to be doing some art on there and maybe some games later at night. So
sounds good. All right, guys. Thanks once again. Everyone have an awesome night. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
See you later.
Bye.